from the vault, high atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Talking Catholic. It's Kari, Janisse here, and I'm of course here with my good friend, Mike Walsh. Good to be with you, Mike.
Oh, hey, what's going on? You introduce me as your good friend
Always.
all the time, and that's so very sweet of you, because I don't think of anybody as my friend, but that's very nice that I get introduced like that. That's
you are
sweet.
not my friend. I'm here with my co-host, Mike Walsh. That's it.
Okay, that's
my non-friend.
That's a good one. So, no, it's lovely to be here. We're actually together again on a non-Zoom call, which is
beautiful.
Awfully nice. Yeah, where we're back, and we're adjacent to my favorite recording spot outside of the vault, your youth lounge.
This is true.
In the bowels of your parish here in Williamstown, New Jersey, Our Lady of Peace Parish, and you're quite hot and sweaty right now, as a matter of fact.
I am not hot and sweaty. I just came from an outdoor meeting because we are really blessed to be able to start back up our youth ministry just this past week. Social distance outside, which we found outside is going to be the better place of our options due to limitations on room space and germs flying around and kids being kids and whatnot. So outdoors has been great so far. It was not that hot, so actually I'm not sweating.
Well, I'm looking at you. So.
I'm a little warm, I guess, but it was fun. It was fun to, it's felt so good just to be back and off Zoom, as we mentioned.
Yeah.
I mean, Zoom is a great tool, but at a certain point, it's I don't know, it's just not what we hope in ministry, at least, which is to be together.
Yeah, for me, driving up as you guys are actually wrapping up your meeting and seeing everybody together, and everybody, joyous looks on their faces, back together again. You guys are all hanging out, eating pizza, just being social and fellowship and all those things we've missed for so long. It was really nice. Yeah,
and actually tonight and what we did on Monday night with our young adult group was had everyone just talk and share what has this time meant for them. And unanimously from youth and young adults is just they've gotten closer to their families, they've gotten deeper in their faith, but they miss their friendships. And for young people, that's their life right now, is friendships and being together, socializing. And we know in our ministries that's how they really are vibrant, is by being together and having them be together a lot, and of course faith-centered. So to be back, there was a few tears shed on Monday night, especially with our young adults. They were very sincere, very beautiful. And actually just this past weekend, our diocese has opened up all the masses, which was beautiful to be congregated by people in the pews. And I'm still live streaming, as we talked about on past episodes. Our mass is actually more to get our overflow into the gym. We are live streaming to do that. Anyway, long story short is that I was at all the masses this weekend but one, and many tears as well, which I thought was beautiful.
By you or by other people?
No, not by me. I was crying because I was there for like 5 hours straight. This is my 6th mass of the weekend, because one of them was diaconate ordination, which was beautiful. We'll talk about that momentarily.
Right.
But no, of course I could never cry. I love being in church. It was more the people walking in, and then at communion time as well.
Was it really? Was it?
Yeah.
It was a strange weekend for me, and I, for the first time, I wasn't overloaded with masses and live streams and things of that nature, which is kind of a nice turn of events for me. But what I did was I was kind of asking around and seeing, how did Mass go at your parish? What kind of a turnout was it? Do you have a rough idea about how many people were coming?
It's interesting. I had a feeling it would be on the lower side, and from what I'm talk around the diocese, that's what I heard. But our lowest mass I think was around 30. Our highest mass was around 60. Okay. So I was thinking each mass would be around 60 to maybe even 100. So I actually was on the higher end of my expectations. But I think as the next few weeks continue on, things are opening up, restaurants and sporting events starting after June 22nd. I think as more and more opens, people will be more and more comfortable going and attending.
My hope, actually, believe it or not, as a logistics guy, not necessarily from a spiritual standpoint, but from a logistics standpoint, I was kind of hoping that this first week was going to be low numbers, mostly because it was such a sea change with what it's like coming to Mass and how many pews are roped off, and I actually heard that as well. Everything I've heard so far was numbers about 50 and under, which I think actually probably worked out well for those parishes just to get used to it.
I agree.
You know, in the Diocese of Camden, the obligation to attend Mass is still lifted for right now. And for those people who are still kind of, you know, my wife is she's a very bold woman and a very confident woman. And even she had a little bit of, you know, trepidation with going back to Mass. So we kept our son home. He didn't have to go back to Mass. I watched the Mass on TV because I have to make it through at least one more event where I can't get sick. So it's like there's, you know, because we have the
what
the
event is that?
That would be the priest ordination coming up this weekend,
which is our next podcast. So
yeah, we're gonna talk to our 2 new priests next week. Yeah, so a little heads up to next week's episode. But yeah, so I watched the Mass from home this weekend, which is actually ironically
a change for you.
It was
really
the
funny.
first time I was home watching the Mass as opposed to
and Jennifer what?
And Jennifer went to Mass.
Okay,
yeah,
nice.
it was a nice sort of juxtaposition. I felt that was deserved. You know, I've been able to go to Mass. She's been restricted for 10 weeks,
Very good.
So she went. But but anyway, I was happy to see that the numbers were a little bit down, just so the parishes got used to it. Because the truth of the matter is, not only is it difficult for the people going back and seeing so many different things, for like yourself, for those people who work in the parishes and everything sort of being changed, making sure that everything was going to work, and not about to say sanitation.
We have the Martha's Ministry cleaning team at our parish.
Is that what it's called?
Yes, the Martha's Ministry cleaning team.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that nice?
Oh, please, every other parish in the diocese, steal that idea. I love that idea. Well, that's my wife is on hers, Martha's. What is it? What do you call it?
Martha's Ministry cleaning team.
Jennifer.
Or Martha's Ministry for short.
I love that. I'm going to tell my wife to use that terminology for their parish.
It's fun.
That's good. So anyway, yeah, I'm glad that I didn't hear about any troubles in the parishes. Not all the parishes opened right away. There were a couple of parishes in the diocese that chose to open a week later. I don't know if they were trying to get their stuff in order or whatnot. But yeah, so it was an interesting turn of events.
It'll be interesting to see this weekend, and like I said, upcoming ones, how it maybe changed. We didn't have to use our overflow to the gym, but we had it ready to go, and I think, you know, the people are excited to be back. I also think there are people that are hesitant for good reasons, health reasons, their age. Some people that I know are working in ERs and stuff, they said they still feel they don't want to contaminate other people. Yeah. I think that's wise and prudent. So we are blessed, I think, also by our bishop to give out communion after the live streams. And I thought that was a great, I don't know if you want to call it compromise, idea to allow these people to still view Mass and then come and receive the Lord, because I think that's what most people miss. And that went surprisingly well with good numbers.
Yeah. I saw your photos on social media. I was very pleased to see that.
Thank you.
You're very good about that, as always. That was really a wonderful first week back, and so that was nice. And during that first week back, we also had a blessed Advent in the diocese.
It kicked off the week back.
Yeah, it was great.
It was pretty cool.
Great way to open up the churches back to the people again. We had the diaconate ordination of our seminarians.
And the first Mass that I got to sit and watch in a while, which I loved, just sitting there and taking in the Mass, not being behind a camera, worrying about the angles, worrying about flipping around on my face. Just sat there and prayed. It was great. And prayed for 3 amazing young men who entered into the transitional deacon.
Yeah, who happen to be with us today.
They
as a matter
here.
Of fact.
Why don't we let them introduce themselves?
Yeah, let's go around the table.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. My name's Paul Deacon Paul Abbruscato. Well, check that out. That's kind of neat. I'm currently actually assigned at Gibbsboro Parish with St. Andrews, is it? Yeah, that's it.
That's how new he is. He doesn't remember his assignment.
You just got your assignment, right?
In his defense, he just got his letter, yeah. So we'll cut him some slack over not remembering the name of the parish.
Monsignor Marucci is the pastor there, and I'm looking forward to it. And with that, I'll just give it over to my friend Deacon Steve Bertonazzi.
So I'm Deacon Steve Bertonazzi. I'm from Vineland. My home parish is St. Padre Pio. I've been there the past 3 months with Father Rob Sinatra. And my assignment will be in Atco at Christ the Redeemer with Father Chris Mann.
Okay. And lastly?
My name is Deacon Carlo Santa Teresa. My home parish is St. Peter's in Merchantville. During my time in quarantine, I was also stationed at St. Andrew the Apostle in Gibbsboro, which is where I also did my pastoral year, and I am going to be assigned to Holy Child Parish in Runmead with Father Joe Gagnon.
You are. Yeah, I love it when they get their first assignments.
Yeah,
you know?
I love hearing them. I get excited. Deacon Paul, I think you said your home parish. You want to let everybody know your home
my
parish?
home parish is Our Lady Star of the Sea in Atlantic City. I did my pastoral year in Wildwood, New Jersey, at Notre Dame de la Mer, and that was a wonderful time, especially at the beach.
Yeah, very nice.
Our guy is used to the
assignment.
Jersey Shore. That's
Yeah.
true.
That's right.
Well, especially if you grew up in Atlantic City, it's nice for you to be close to the coast.
And our second recent seminarian that came out of Atlantic City, one of our newer priests, Father Ed Kennedy, wasn't he an Atlantic City guy as well? Yeah.
I don't consider him newer anymore.
Okay, well, I've been in the...
I had to think about it. I'm like, who was there? Sorry, Father Ed. You're old.
All right, I'm going to clip this out of the podcast.
No, Father, he's a great priest. He's a younger priest.
He is. Well, I think of him as one of the newer ones because when I got
We
here...
skipped a year.
When I got here 5 years ago, he was the first priest ordination that I did while I was here. I think he was the first.
Yeah.
I know he was the first.
And then we
actually.
didn't have any last year, so
2016.
it seems
Yeah.
fresh.
So-
For sure.
He's fresh. He's still fresh. He just got his first pastor assignment, as a matter of
Oh,
fact,
good
too.
for him.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I take that back. He's been named the administrator of a parish.
Very nice.
That's good.
Congratulations, Father. That's
So
great.
within 5 years, you guys could all be administrators of a parish. Aren't you guys excited?
Ooh.
Learn the technical stuff first. Learn how to be an administrator.
Yeah. Learn how to be a deacon, right? You
That part too.
gotta get that.
But I guess the first thing we want to talk about is your vocation journey and sort of what brought you to where you are right now. And we'll kind of go around the table, and I'm just curious. Since we started with Paul, we'll go the other way around this time. We'll start with Deacon Carlo. When did you kind of first feel the calling to the priesthood?
Well, actually, I think the call came at a very young age. I think the earliest I can recall, I was about 4 years old.
Wow.
And I remember seeing my parish priest at the time and thinking that there was something different about him. And it wasn't the outfit that he wore or that he said all the prayers that we had to respond to, but it was something deeper. And, when you're 4 years old, you don't really know what it is. You can't quite put your finger on it, but it was something that I wanted to know more about. So as I grew older, I got to know that priest a little bit more. That priest was my pastor at the time, Monsignor Jim Tracy, very good friend. And actually, he just did our canonical retreat for the guys who were just ordained deacons and the men who will be ordained priests next week. And through that experience and then the experience of being able to serve at Mass, it gave me a deeper appreciation of what the priesthood was. And I originally applied to enter the seminary back in 2007, but I decided to take a step back just to see what else, I might be good at, see if there's anything else that, might have interested me. And during that time, I, met a lot of wonderful people, a lot of people that I still stay close with today. And, I was happy, but I wasn't joyful. I knew that there was something that was missing in that. And every once in a while, the idea of priesthood would always come back. And sometimes I would fight it, sometimes I would think about it, but it never really went away. It wasn't until 2012. It was the day before St. Patrick's Day, and I was in New York City. I wasn't there for Bishop Sullivan's birthday, but I just happened to be in the city that day. And as I was walking to morning Mass at St. Patrick's Cathedral, I was actually in an accident. I was crossing the street, and there was a taxi cab that ran a red light, and I just happened to be the lucky guy in the middle of the crosswalk.
Oh, no.
So I went into the hospital, fractured my left tibia and fibula, was operated on, and I just remember being in my room shortly after that and thinking, there must be a reason why I was still there. I mean, the car was going pretty fast, and yet here I am with just a broken leg.
Yeah.
There's got to be a reason for it. And I still remember being in the quiet of that room. It had to be sometime in the middle of the night, and just hearing in my heart, those two words that kept coming back, follow me. So at that point, I knew what I had to do. I contacted the vocations office, and then in the fall of 2013, I started my time at the college seminary of St. Andrews at Seton Hall, and got through my collegiate years, moved on to theology at Immaculate Conception Seminary at Seton Hall, where I'm currently studying, and lo and behold, through God's grace and blessing, here I am as a deacon, and boy, what a blessing it's been.
Oh, that's
Wow,
wonderful.
I never heard that story, Carlo, as long as I've known you. I don't know how I missed it along these years, but that is a powerful story.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. It's the hand of God at work.
Yes.
Guiding you in
And his
those
plan.
moments.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Amazing.
All right, top that, Steve. There you go.
Not as dramatic. No, not at all. Not at all. I have a little bit longer story because of course, I'm the old man in the group. Being
We know.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. So, I was nodding my head as I was listening to Carla because it sounds similar, just the same kind of experiences. But I would say that I first remember thinking about the priesthood when I was 13 years old.
Yeah.
Had been an altar server for about 3 years by then, and was in 7th grade preparing for confirmation. St. Mary's School in East Vineland had great teachers, and the nun that was preparing us for confirmation, I just was really like into it, and the prayers and everything that I was learning. And I guess it touched me, and being around the priests all the time and the parish. I remember after a mass, I was coming back up the aisle after serving, after we processed down, and my parents were there, probably talking with the old ladies of the parish, And I think I told that group, I said, I'm going to be a priest. I don't know where I could just remember. It's just like a vague, faint memory, but I can remember saying that. I was 13 years old, and it's like once that comes, it never goes away. You just start thinking, and so. I was the boy in the parish that every mass not every mass, but weddings, funerals, I was just always on the altar with the priest, good priests in our parish, Augustinians at the time at St. Mary's. And then when I was in high school, so really like formative years, in 92, we got diocesan priests, the Augustinians left, and that's where I met Father Paul Onifer and Father Pete Saporito.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, sure.
And when those two guys came to the parish, boy, they started on me. It was in a good way. They just saw something in me and started to. And as I got older, I would be with them more, and my family was. My mom worked at the rectory, so we were down the street from the church. We were just a church family. We were just always there, and
Connected.
so it was very connected. And so those guys had a big impact on my life, big influence. High school, but I didn't really going to high school. It was like. I wasn't the best student, so wasn't really thinking about what am I going to do in life. Didn't have a lot. When I was done high school, went to county college. I was sort of like, I guess you could say, a little bit afraid of life a little bit. What am I going to do? I didn't think that I could go and become a priest. You know what I mean? So went to college, not having a whole big idea of what I was going to do. Eventually stopped, and in the year 2000, I went and got a job. But all that time. Throughout my life, going to different events, different maybe church events, the Padre Pio Shrine in Landisville, meeting different people in different places. All the time, people would come up to me. Hey, did you ever think about the priesthood? Did you ever think about the priesthood? I would say, no, why are they asking me that? But it made me think. Had a person in the school in St. Mary's School there, a teacher who Steve Hogan. I don't know if, I'm sure.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. We've had him on the show.
He took me with a group of people. We went to visit St. Charles Seminary.
Oh, really?
Nice.
Right, but he asked me, "Hey, Steve, we're going to the seminary. Why don't you come with us?"
Yeah.
Sure, that was intentional.
Of course, it was intentional. It Kari all the time. So
And that's a powerful seminary to go
Yes.
to. I mean,
Right.
just the architecture alone, I think, makes people priests. To tell you the truth.
it was amazing. I just remember walking through the halls and just looking at the pictures on the wall
Yes.
of like other clubs where there were huge classes. Like, wow, this place is great.
Yeah.
Steve Pinzon was Father Steve Pinzon.
Yes.
He went to school with my brother, so I've known him since he was a little kid. So I sat with him for an evening prayer, and we had dinner. And I can remember being at dinner, and I saw this guy walking around. He was helping serve the meals. One of the seminarians. I'd never met him before.
Yeah.
It was Father Rob Sinatra, my current pastor.
Was it?
I can remember
wow.
it. It was him. I didn't know him, and after we left,
How
and later
about
when
that?
I met him, I was like, Father Rob, I saw you one. I remember when I visited the seminary. So anyway, went back to eventually though, I went and got a job. So I didn't enter right then, and it was just a thought was in my head. 2005, we did a called by name in our parish. Father Pete did that, and my name, I guess, got put down a lot. And so a few of us, we met Father Chris Bakey, who was the vocation director.
He's in our parish here.
Yeah.
He's my the associate here.
So Father Chris came to the rectory, met with us, and then he later on, like a week later, he asked me to go to dinner. He said, why don't we go out to dinner? We went, we had something to eat, we came back to the rectory, and he gave me the application. He's like, I think you should fill this out. So I started. but I never finished. Kind of like with Carlo, it's like, why didn't I finish? I stayed in contact with Father Chris for a little while, and then eventually we lost contact. I guess maybe I was like just unsure at the time, but then after that I was like, is God really calling me? What's the deal here? So that was 2006.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, I kept working, but still looking for like signs from God. What do you ask me to do? 2013, at Adoration one night, I came out, I picked up a bulletin from the church, because my mom did the bulletin in our parish. She always wanted to see one. So I picked it up and I opened it up and I was looking through it and I saw discernment group, the one that they do here.
Yes.
So I said, let me go. It was like the winter of 2013. Came here, met Father Romano.
Mm-hmm.
I went through the discernment group for a couple of years. Again, it was like I was just afraid, I guess. And
Which is perfectly normal. I mean, for me,
I was just hesitant.
It's funny to hear you talking about this. It related to the priesthood. My wife and I were just having this conversation the other night about how much trepidation I had as a young man deciding what I was going to do, and there were so many options I had from ages 18 to 27. And I could have done anything, and I dragged my feet on all of it. And I was so unsure, couldn't decide. I haven't been happy in my professional life until, let's see, how old am I now? I got this job 5 years ago.
The last 5 years.
So it really is. It took, and there was a lot of education that went there, and I wouldn't be I wouldn't have the capability of doing what I do now if I didn't have the previous 20 years of unhappiness in my work life. But until I was, how old am I? Until I was 43, I didn't find work joy until I was 43. And you're what, 50 now?
everybody, that's right. 44.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm 44. I'm getting it.
You're
Might as well be.
But that's the point, though, is that when I hear your story, that doesn't sound weird to me at all. That sounds exactly like my story. Just mine didn't end in that vocation. Mine ended in this vocation.
Just a hesitation, yeah. So we visited the seminary. Father Romano took a group of us. We went to see the seminary. It was February 2015, and it was a little bit like, I've lived at home, and it was like scary. It was out of my comfort zone. I was like, well, I have some time before I have to make a decision. And at the job that it was the same job, but I was on the road traveling, and I stopped in a church. They have adoration on Wednesday morning. I stopped in there, went in, somebody just say a prayer. Left my phone in the truck, went in, knelt down, prayed before the Blessed Sacrament for 5 minutes. It was just, Lord, what do you ask me to do? Just prayed, got up, went out to my truck, picked up my phone, and there was a text message on there from Deacon Paul Abbruscato. So this was, I think he was probably in his first year in the seminary, and it said, he had known me from the discernment group, and it said, so we just had a silent retreat, and it was great. So are you going to apply? The day is coming when you got to let your yes be yes and your no mean no.
Wow.
Hope all is well, brother. And I just prayed before it was like,
wow.
Yeah, that hit me like a ton of bricks.
All right.
Wow.
So lo and behold, I called Father Romano, and we set up a meeting, and he gave me the application, and I filled it out this time, went through gung-ho, and
wow.
And here you are
that was
being ordained
5 years ago, right? Exactly, exactly. Yeah, that was exactly. That's a big to look at that.
That's
what a
amazing.
Providential, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And Deacon Paul, your yes, your openness to God help foster a vocation. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That text. One text.
That means in 5 years he's the next vocations director.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, I would do it.
It's a good gig.
Yeah, it's not bad.
And for our listeners, if anyone wasn't sure whether or not Deacon Stephen is Italian or not, there's a high likelihood that you heard him pounding on the table with making a point every single time. So those hands have been going all over the
I'm
place.
half Sicilian, so there you go.
You hear the pounding. That's what that is.
That is funny.
There's no work being done down there.
Oh, man.
So Deacon Paul, aside from encouraging other sorts of vocation, what was your vocation story like?
All right, well, to begin the vocation story, I was not Catholic, so I'm actually a convert to the faith, which was quite a journey. But one of the most beautiful things was I was raised in a Christian home. My mother was Pentecostal, and then we went to this church, this Baptist church when we were younger. And one of the beautiful things that I've learned from that particular denomination was just the Christian fundamentals of the fact that God loves you, Christ died for your sins, and I think these are foundational to the Christian life, and something that you need to know as you grow and you journey in this life. But as I grew older, we actually stopped going to church. So this is one of the, I guess, the difficult parts or difficult moments in my life. And one of the things that I remember was my parents still wanted me to have a Christian education. So I went to St. James in Ventnor. I think the school is closed now. That's kind of a sad thing. But there I met two of my best friends, Christian Garofalo and then Shane Martin. And they're still my best friends to this day. So it's just a wonderful thing to realize how in the Christian school, I met two of my wonderful friends that are still beside me this day. And as I continued to journey in my life, I went to high school, and there I drifted from the faith to some degree. And I kind of, like, how would you say, accepted some worldly ways as I journeyed in my life. And as I continued, I went to community college. I went there, and I was studying business for some time. And in that particular moment, I was working in a restaurant, and then I started bartending. And I guess the big transition was I had this one girlfriend who was agnostic, and it was really puzzled me. I was like, how is that possible? You know, after you gaze upon the world and you see the beauty of all the things that God has created. And that was kind of the turning point. And then we broke up. But then, like, one of the big things that I asked myself, I was like, so wait, why do I believe in God? So it was a really turning point to really investigate the faith and really look into it. Because I kind of had a very simpleton view of faith, you know, I just believed. I mean, you know, but I didn't really know the crux of why I believed. Yeah. So I began to really dive deep into the faith, and I was going to this Calvary Chapel because my oldest brother was baptized. He's not Catholic yet, but I think I'm going to work on it.
You get baptize him, right?
His wife's Catholic though, so it's
there's a lot of hope.
There you go.
But I mean, you know, we're trying to get all of New Jersey to become Catholic. That's the goal. But as I moved forward, I was going to this Calvary Chapel, and the man, he had a theology degree, so he taught a lot of important theological elements about the connection between the prophets and the Old Testament and how Christ fulfills those in his personhood. So this is a big thing that's necessary to understand the Christian faith and why it's centered on Christ himself, as all these persons spoke about him and Christ is that fulfillment therein. So then after this particular moment, I gained some, I guess, knowledge about the faith. But my best friend was Catholic, and I was going all the way out to Ocean City to Calvary Chapel, where it was the guy preached. I think it was, Calvary Chapel was the name of the chapel. And then my best friend was Catholic, and he said, "Why don't you come down the road to Our Lady Star of the Sea? It's right there." So it was very close, which is a beautiful thing, beautiful element for me, because I was driving all the way out there. And one of the beautiful aspects of my journey, I wasn't not affiliated with any denomination. And my one goal was to understand, what does Christ teach? So that was the big thing. So I follow Jesus Christ as a Christian. So as I went to Our Lady Star of the Sea with my best friend, one of the first things I seen was I met my grandfather there. And we don't have the best communication in our family, but anyway, my grandfather was there at Mass, and I met with him. We would go to Mass every Sunday. So it was a beautiful thing that we developed with one another. But in that process, one of the things that I've noticed in the Catholic faith, which really shine or show the beauty of its ancient history, was how they reverence the Word of God. Because as Christians and I guess I would say Protestants, they have a high reverence for sacred scripture. And when you come to the Catholic Church, one of the things you see is how they reverently read the Word of God. And that's something I really deeply appreciated in my heart. I was like, wow, it's a beautiful vision of how sacred scripture should be treated, as they read it and they just say the Word of God, very, very plainly, straightforward. And then there's also the concept of the gospel, how everybody rises to listen to the words of Jesus Christ. And then also there's the next aspect, which is the Holy Eucharist, right? And this is the beauty of how Jesus says to do this in remembrance of me. And how I didn't know it at the time. I didn't understand apostolic tradition and how all throughout the ages, the apostles, ordained bishops, and all throughout the ages, they continued this tradition, connect it to Jesus Christ and unite it in Jesus Christ to this particular Eucharistic sacrifice. And it was something that I experienced and felt like, wow, this is like, I felt like I was at the earliest stages of Christianity in that communion, and how the apostles did it, and how Jesus reminded the apostles to do these things in memory of him. So that was a really beautiful experience. And then I was talking with my grandfather, and he was like, well, why don't you become Catholic? And I was sitting there going there every week, and I thought this was a perfect opportunity to just sit down with a priest and just investigate the faith even further. Because I began to grow fond of studying sacred scripture, and then I was reading a lot about the saints. And the first saint I encountered was Saint Benedict, and he had such a beautiful story of how he was in Rome, and Rome was the church was beginning to be corrupt. So he goes out into the desert to kind of like get away from it all and just really seek union with God in this particular way. And so my first initial thoughts of vocation was toward the Benedictine order. But to travel back a little bit, just to speak with my grandfather, he was like, why don't you become Catholic? And then he gave me the pamphlet to join the RCIA. So then I entered, and I was coached or taught by Father Joseph Pham, which was just it's such a brilliant and beautiful story of leaving Vietnam and coming here and just really had this deep faith in Christ, and as he journeyed in his life. And that was very inspiring. And he just kind of very informed me about the faith and taught me a lot about the crux of the teachings of the Catholic faith. And it was just very solid truth. But then come back to the discernment toward the Benedictine order. I was talking with my father about it, and he was like, well, why don't you just become a parish priest? And I think he knew that about my personality, because monastic life is a little more introverted, and sometimes I'm a little more extroverted when it comes to like hanging out with people and being with the crowd. Yeah. So it was kind of like, he pushed me in that direction, because your father knows you. Your parents know you. They know who you are, and they know how to properly kind of guide you if they're true parents or a true mother and a true father that truly seek your good. And then coming to that, he gave me the pamphlet for the discernment group. And the beautiful part about this story, I don't want to keep talking too long, but it was the fact.
That's a great story. Keep going. I'm riveted.
My dad and my mom came. My mom entered the Catholic faith, and my dad came back to the faith. And so it's a beautiful story, because my dad was Catholic the whole time. This is the backstory that I didn't tell you, but it's an interesting thing. So he just wasn't practicing, but I guess not physically in the church, but I guess as a father who guided 4 children or had 4 children and was married to a wife and faithful to that wife, he was practicing in that sense, which was kind of like the crux of Catholicism in your actions, not necessarily your words. Then he gave me the pamphlet to this discernment group, and then I went, and this is where I met Father Michael Romano. And what a grace-filled man. This is how I would put it. And when I sat down with him, I just felt a sense of peace and joy, like that, the kind that God gives you when you're moving towards your vocation. Like you're both married, and I'm sure that's the kind of experience you felt when you were moving toward God's call to be a married man or a married woman. Yeah. It's the same thing you experience when you're moving toward the priesthood or religious life. You feel that peace of Jesus Christ guiding you and leading you on this journey. And then I was discerning there, and I was going to enter that year, but then I decided not to. So I waited a couple more years. And then it was like how I described it.
You guys have a common theme going there.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that, because we've had so many people on this. We've had so many priests and seminarians and people on the podcast, and it's always the same thing. Yep. It's like, I did my best not to become a priest, and at the end I just there was
couldn't
nothing.
Fight it anymore.
Yeah, it was like, and that's. I find that to be a good sign in your priest is, okay, I fought this as much as I can fight this, and I'm just going to surrender now. But I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. You explained it well. So it was like the wind was at my back, as I moved forward with this idea and this kind of thing that God put in my heart. And it just it's been a beautiful experience in the seminary. Obviously has its challenges, but overall it's just been a wonderful, wonderful experience, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
That's really wonderful.
Thanks. And your experience is slightly different than the other 2 deacons, as they were at Immaculate Conception, but you're studying at the North American College in Rome as well, so you've had a few other different experiences than the other 2 deacons sitting around the table. Correct?
Yes, and one of them has been the coronavirus, right? That's been the talk of the town, and Italy got hit pretty hard. So we should just kind of keep them in prayer. I mean, it's just...
and because of that, you escaped you were one of the last people out, right?
I did.
You were able to avoid the quarantine in Italy by getting out of Dodge, right?
I seen the disease following the plane. No, as I flew away. No, but yeah, it was quite an experience because when we left, they were checking our temperature before we got on the plane, and it was interesting because I had an early ordination. It was supposed to be in May, but then it got pushed back to June. But one of the things that I was planning to stay, but then our rector was like, if anybody has an early ordination, you got to go back. Because a lot of the guys stayed, but then they all eventually kind of dispersed. Yeah. But
So, and escaping also gave you another unique opportunity. You got to quarantine with somebody special for 2 weeks.
Yes.
How was it? Where were you quarantined in the United States for your first 2 weeks back?
Quarantine at the bishop's residence, and he was quite the gentleman. It was just a pleasant experience to be with him. Very, very humorous and very down to earth.
Yeah.
And it's great knowing that that's the man who's guiding you and leading you into your priesthood as a truly fatherly figure who loves you and kind of cares for you as you move in this direction. And it was just a great experience to be with him. And I'm sure you guys all had that experience as well with him as well.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I never got to quarantine with him, but he is a great bishop.
Yeah, he's a good one, and that was funny because we started the live streams up, and the first live stream Sunday masses we did, Bishop felt very strongly about nobody should be leaving their homes. So when we would do it, except for, as it turns out, John Kalitz and myself, we left our homes constantly. But he really wanted everyone else to be in their homes, and particularly back in March, when this first came out, and nobody knew what was going on, and we were all very concerned. He was like, "Stu, where you are." And so he decided to do the masses in his third floor chapel, which is a glorified attic with with an A-line roof. Not a lot of room in there if you're over 6 feet tall. But it was kind of nice walking in and seeing Deacon Paul and Deacon Peter, who's about to become Father Peter, Peter Gallagher there, as they were working on their last couple of studies. Yep. As a matter of fact, you were studying at the dining room table at 3 in the morning?
Yes, don't remind me. Yeah. So
is that because of the time difference? Or
time difference,
okay.
Yes. But they eventually did change it, and I only had one class at 4:30 on Fridays, so it wasn't. It was nice. They worked it out for us. Thanks be to God.
That's But what, did you make sure that since you were getting up so early that you guys were making the coffee for the rest of the house?
Absolutely not.
So, one of the questions we have is sort of the unique nature of seminary life as well. Now, you were away, you were in your pastoral year, and so it was kind of strange. But what are some of the differences between going to seminary at Seton Hall University versus going to seminary at the NAC? Could you? Well, actually, maybe how is your seminary life? I guess we probably may be the perfect person to ask, Paul. What is seminary life like versus up in North Jersey versus Rome?
Well, I think the big difference in Rome, there's 200 guys there, and they're from all over the U.S., which is a beautiful thing to see, because you really see the vibrancy of the church from all over the United States, which is sometimes you don't get to realize. So that was kind of a unique feature that is in the Pontifical North American College, and I think that's probably the biggest difference is the amount of people that are there, and also the studies, the universities that we go to. There's some that are in Italian, but I actually go to one that's in English because
got lucky.
Yeah. No, it's such a challenge for me. Especially, I think it's a challenge for older guys when it comes to linguistic and try to learn a new language. So I really struggled with that. So I just went to the English university, and God was gracious in that area.
Yeah. You left off a big difference, though. I'm sure your outings on food, going out to dinner in Italy, is a lot different than going out in North Jersey.
Yes, that is true.
We were there a few times. I was there with you, Paul, a couple of times when the different canonization masses. I know Mother Teresa's Mass. We were there together, and going out to dinner in Italy. There's nothing like it then versus
says
maybe Star Tavern in North Jersey over there.
Bob's Diner.
I was going to say, you're from North Jersey, and you're dragging North Jersey.
Listen, I like North Jersey compared to South Jersey as far as diners and everything else, but nothing compares to Italy. Nothing. And we were just there right before the quarantine as well, which was interesting. We were there in February, and we thought we got out in time, but you got out way later than us.
Yeah.
That is one of the excellent features, is the food.
So, what about seminary life in North Jersey? The food isn't as good, but what are the benefits of being up there?
Well, we make do with the food. We do our best with it. One of the really nice things about being at a seminary, especially at Seton Hall, is the proximity we're in from home. Mm-hmm. And we're practically home as far as New Jersey
Just a
is
turnpike
concerned.
ride away.
Exactly. I used to tell people all the time, it takes me about an hour and a half to get from home to the seminary, and from the seminary to home it takes about 15 minutes. But, that's... that being said, again, because you're so close to home, you get to see a lot of the things that we're going to be dealing with as priests, especially here in New Jersey, especially here in the Diocese of Camden. It's always amazing when I walk through the campus at Seton Hall and I see how many people from South Jersey are there. Occasionally I'll run into a fellow Camden Catholic alumnus. Every once in a while I'll see an Eagles cap over there. So, but at the same time, listening to their stories, getting to know them, getting to really see what type of things concern them. It gives us a nice idea of what are the challenges, as well as what are some of the blessings that we'll be working with when we go into ministry, knowing that we are of service to the church, but in a very unique and profound way for the people in the local church, and in our case, the great and wonderful Diocese of Camden.
You agree?
Yeah, I agree, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, Carlo always puts it in a good
So
way.
succinctly, you don't even have to add to it.
Yeah, really.
Were both of you on pastoral year this year?
I did not take a pastoral. I'm 50 years old, so they're like, this guy is like, we got to get him.
Push him through.
He had his pastoral stuff there early on. So let me ask you then, Carlo, what was your pastoral year like? What were you doing in the parish?
Well, pastoral year was certainly a wonderful blessing. It gave me a taste of what parish life really is like. Oftentimes when you go into seminary, you have the ideal painted in your head that this is exactly how it's going to be, and it's all going to fall into place. But with this, you actually get to jump in and see the concerns and the issues that a parish has to deal with. So during my pastoral year, Monsignor Marucci did a wonderful job, really taking me under his wing and showing me the different things that go on in a parish, sitting in through parish council meetings, sitting in through finance council meetings, getting me involved with the many ministries that the parish had, getting involved in the community, as well as seeing what happens when, the air conditioning might not be working properly, and, how do you address that? How do you look at a budget and try to work and be a good steward of the people's gifts to the parish. So that was a very wonderful thing. And then getting to know and be involved in the lives of the parishioners and really forming a bond. And suddenly that whole title of father means a lot more because you really get to see that. You get to help form the potential of the people you're working with. In addition to being at the parish, I also had the opportunity to teach 6th and 8th grade religion once a week at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Regional School in Berlin. And again, that was an absolutely wonderful experience, being able to hand on the faith to future generations. But at the same time, like I said, with studying at Seton Hall, you get a good gauge of the culture. You get to hear the concerns and the questions that kids have. And they have a lot of really profound insights on certain things, as well as a lot of real struggles. And that just makes you want to dive into understanding more. One of the beautiful things that Bishop Sullivan mentioned in his homily at our ordination mass was being in tune with the culture, understanding what's going on there in music and sports and entertainment and whatnot, so that you know what's going on, so that you can make the gospel relevant to them. And one of the things that I learned is that even at a young age, they want to know, they want to inquire, and they're hungering for the truth, and they want to see, how does Jesus Christ fit in my life in today's world that's kind of pushing me in all different directions. So it was a great blessing to be able to work with them, to teach them, as well as to learn from those students.
So I love hearing that.
That's great for the students to have a young man in formation, being a great role model for them, teaching them, and they won't forget that. They really won't forget that. They'll go through high school and college and still remember those years that seminarian Carlo, or I don't know if they called you Mr. Santa Teresa.
They all called me Mr. Carlo, and
Mr.
actually
Carlo,
it was interesting going to the high schools for vocations talks and still having a lot of those students stopping you in the hallways.
Mr. Carlo. Yeah.
Even applauding me, even though I'm at Paul VI and I went to Camden. There's always that gauge there, but you can always find your students because you have the sporadic applause here.
Nice.
Sure. So, Deacon Stephen, one of the things, all joking aside, you are an older seminarian.
Yes.
How was, as an older guy, how was it being back in college?
It was hard, really. I had never been like a college experience like that.
Yeah,
At the county college, and so, I'm on the campus there in the seminary. I was always at ICS. I started at Immaculate, so I wasn't at St. Andrews with the college guys. But it was hard the first couple of months. It was a new experience. It was scary for me, and just leaving home after 39 years was like, wow. It was a big adjustment. But I give credit to my spiritual director, to the counselor, and just being open. It was first time in my life where I had other people in my life other than your parents and your family, where you're able to just, I knew I had to open myself up and just say, this is me and this is my life, and through prayer, the Blessed Sacrament, it was amazing the change that took place, and like people see it. You don't always see it in yourself, but other people see it, and you have to start, like for me, you have to start trusting what other people see in you, and saying about you, and not always depending on your own insecurities sometimes, and it was great. It was a beautiful experience to have that transformation and be able to do well in school, for the first time, really. It was amazing,
Nice.
So because you felt so inspired being there, or like you were finally in the right spot.
And I was like, okay, but this is real. If this is what God wants for me, and I threw myself into it, and it was great.
That's
It was
wonderful.
beautiful. Yeah, it was.
Beautiful.
It was an amazing experience.
So, well, actually, what I love about this conversation is how different all of their.
It's very
I mean,
different.
it's like I feel like we shouldn't have had all three of them together.
I
We should have separated them out
this
into
time
different
is
episodes.
fine.
There's so much depth and richness here.
It's very true. We haven't even got to the ordination. We have less than 10 minutes left. So
Yeah,
we should
well,
probably talk about that.
So, what was that like? I mean, you're now. I jokingly said before before we started the podcast that you've gone from human to superhuman, because now as ordained men. But that moment, there are some moments of the ordinations, both at the diaconate level and at the and to the priesthood, where there are these beautiful moments of symbolism that occur, and actually more than symbolism, that occur during the ordination. I'm just curious, in the days before, was there? How was your nerves? Like, did you have a nervousness, or was there a calmness to you?
I would say there was a calmness.
Really?
Because I feel like I really thought about this and prayed about this for a long time. As you're moving toward this kind of like this aspect of serving the church in this way. So I feel like I had a calmness to me, and thanks be to God.
That's good.
Yeah, I was calm, and we were just coming off. We had the retreat for 5 days, and that was a good experience too. Being with Monsignor Tracy and hearing his stories and what he was telling us. He was trying. He inspired. He was inspirational. Just hearing his priesthood stories and I would have some meetings with him personally, and it was good. So I was ready. I was okay. And it was
That's great.
It was good.
Yeah, certainly a lot of excitement going in there. I'll admit there were little jitters beforehand, trying to remember your lines and everything else going in. But at the same time, I remember just being in the narthex of Our Lady of Perpetual Help in Galloway, and just there being a great amount of peace,
that's
and
nice.
knowing that this is what the Lord has been calling me to, and that He is He's not leaving me alone at it, that He's been along the entire way, and that He's given me wonderful brothers to be able to share this journey with. So to be able to look back and think of all those graces and blessings throughout the years, and to really see it come into fulfillment at that moment.
I love hearing that. I mean, for me, it was incredibly stressful and incredibly dramatic. We were scared the entire time.
Because the internet wouldn't work.
Well, that was one thing.
We were trying to live stream. The internet wouldn't work. People were getting on our live stream, so we had to password protect all of our stuff. 3 minutes before we were supposed to start, we actually held up the ordination for 5 minutes trying to get the live stream to work. Fortunately, there were people who were late getting there, so that helped a little bit. We weren't sure. It was a complete change in how we did the ordination. It was one of the first times we restricted the number of people who could go. So for you guys, it was family and friends, and even priests had to RSVP to come just to make sure that we didn't have the numbers too bad. There was one element of the ordination that did change, in the sense there's usually a moment where you're embraced by the deacons of the diocese, and in this case, we didn't have any deacons there because
there
we
was
were
two.
so limited. Well,
Just the transitional deacons, right?
Right.
No
exactly.
permanent deacons.
No permanent deacons.
Was that
there.
intentional? They didn't have them there to have less.
Yeah, because we knew we had to keep the numbers down. So it's a shame because you had some strangeness to your ordination, but God willing, your priesthood at ordination will be gangbusters again. Next year.
I'm thankful for the amount of people we were allowed. It was great, you know.
That's because they were all there for you. Which one of you had the biggest group?
No,
was it
Carlo? It was Carlo.
Oh, that's right. He had the entire left side of the church. I forgot about that.
Let it be known, Carlo invited me, but I sat in Paul's section because it was a better view.
I'm just happy you made it.
I was blessed to be there. It was beautiful. It truly was.
It really was nice. No, it was such a wonderful. To our listeners, I will tell you, if you haven't been to an ordination in the past, ordinarily they're open for everyone to go to. Go to one, or in this case, watch the live stream on Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Oh, actually, you won't be able to.
It will be gone
because I forgot we're pre-recording this.
You can watch it later.
By the time you're listening to this, we've recorded the priest ordination. You can watch it on our diocesan Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter accounts, and Periscope if you'd like. But if you next year, in your own diocese or in the Camden diocese, go to the priest ordination. I actually get annoyed if I see any empty seat, because it's the most important part. This may be hyperbole, but in my perspective, it's one of the most important days in the diocesan calendar for any diocese.
It's true.
That you can welcome in however many new priests.
And pray for them. Pray for them at the Mass. Yeah.
And you get the benefit of their first blessing as well.
I always like that.
Yeah,
which I'm hitting you each up for after this.
We'll be waiting for you. We'll be holding the line up.
Does it still count a week later? What is this like?
Yeah, right.
Oh,
It's fresh.
sure.
Yeah, I think it's like the whole year.
Oh, it's the whole year?
Right?
Oh,
I don't know. You guys know
like
better
that.
than I. I'm going to take it a week out. I'm going to say it's still good.
Do you know I've been in the diocese for 5 years? I've never had a first blessing.
And that's...
Got to change tonight? I don't know. I don't know. Cause, you know why? Because I'm working the entire time.
Well, tonight you're staying too, and they're each
we're going to be looking
us.
for you.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know if I'm feeling it from these three. They're too
All right,
earnest.
next week from Fathers.
Nah, I don't want it from them either. We'll figure it out. I got to look through the seminarian rank. Who do I want to break the streak with?
Pick out your year.
That's right. So if you ever get a chance, go to an ordination. Diaconate ordinations are great. Priesthood ordinations are even better. If you can make it into a bishop's installation, that's pretty amazing as well. It's great.
Yeah.
So I'm just very excited. It was great to have you guys on the show.
Yeah, I was
tonight.
curious to hear in these last few minutes that we have left, like, what was your favorite moment from the day? And maybe we can end with that, just going around your favorite moment. You only have a minute each, so.
Okay, so I guess my favorite moment was just laying down before the altar and the Holy Sacrament, and just kind of thinking about giving my whole life to God's people, and also the concept of being reminded of how all the saints are praying for you. And I thought that was one of the most beautiful aspects of the ordination.
Oh, that's great.
I would say the same. That
Really?
when you lay down, when the whole church is praying for you, the litany of saints,
Yeah.
that's pretty powerful, because you see it done at other ordinations, which I love. I'm the same way. It's like they're so inspiring at the end of the year after a tough year sometimes in seminary, and you see those ordinations, you're like, wow, this is great. Just laying down that moment. It's like, wow, it's us. Laying here, and then also. After the embrace, walking up on the altar and sitting next to the bishop as vested as a deacon, like, wow, it was incredible. It was an amazing experience.
That's nice.
Powerful.
Yeah, I also agree that the moment of the Litany of the Saints was certainly a powerful moment, but I think the most powerful moment was the moment that Bishop Sullivan laid his hands on my head.
Yeah.
I remember just being there and knowing at that moment I was a deacon. And I remember standing up and walking back to my place and just remembering, hey, I'm still Carlo Santa Teresa, but God's call has been made manifest in itself, in the fact that I am now a deacon through the gift of the Holy Spirit and through the prayers and hands of the bishop. So that really was the powerful moment, seeing how natural and at peace I was at that moment.
That's
Incredible.
wonderful.
Yeah.
I love that.
I like hearing the favorite moments of us. Really, I will say, as a person in the pew, seeing the men laid prostrate, it is powerful for the people in the pew too, because you're laying your life down for us, and for the people. And that, for me, was a very striking moment as well.
And I'll finish it with this. We did get some comment on the live stream, and some people were concerned for you, and some people said, "What? No pillows?" It was so. At least they were worried about you guys on the cold tile. That was very sweet. That was nice.
Thank you very much,
our
everyone, for your love.
Exactly. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, it was
Kari,
wonderful.
thank you very much for setting this up and letting us back into your place. And to our listeners, we'll chat with you next week. And when we chat with you next week, it'll be with our newest priest of the Diocese of Camden. So have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you later.
God bless everyone.